Welcome to the season finale of Cars with Big Boy Trev Season 3. My name is Big Boy Trev.
My name is Burigi.
And today we have an amazing show, a mashup of what has happened in the last 3 months. But first things first.
Let's check out the news.
So, remember, episode 1 of season 3, we promised that we're going to give you bigger and better reviews. And we started that season, or this season, with the Range Rover Sport SVR. Mr. Mirigi, we had so much fun with the V8. Tell me, what were your experiences with that car as we drove it along our Kiambu Ring testing ground?
Let me not lie, the sound that car makes is just at another level. It has an active exhaust, so there's a button that you press, and I call that the button of happiness.
Yes.
I actually happened to drive it now in that tunnel in Pangani, and
Yes.
it made a sound like what I imagine an earthquake sounds like. If you happen to be on the ground, that car sounds so amazing. It's that 5-liter supercharged V8.
Yes.
It's the same one that Jaguar Land Rover uses in a lot of applications.
Yes.
But you add that active exhaust, and the noise that car makes is unlike anything I've had in my entire life. But guess what else sounded good this season?
Yes.
The Mercedes GLE.
Yeah.
S Coupe, also another big V8.
Yes, obviously again a lot of power,
Yeah.
almost similar output to the Range Rover Sport SVR.
Yeah.
Totally different cars to drive, but I think from a thrill point of view, the Mercedes actually gave a lot of thrill, especially driving thrill. But the SVR, the sound. Remember the kids actually waiting, actually from school, and we just parked the cars. We were mounting up our cameras, and they were just actually waiting for us to rev that engine, and it would just go, and you're like, whoa, that thing is crazy. But I mean, now we've seen that most of these dealers are now bringing in the high-end cars, Mr. Murigi. Is it a sign of a maturing market that now people are actually buying these high-end vehicles? Is there like a need to bring these cars more often? And obviously, towards electrification, do we need to have a Tesla showroom in Kenya?
I think what we've seen during this season generally across the board,
Yes.
not even just for the higher-end luxury guys, but even with the specs that the lower-end cars are coming with, is that gone are the days where the local dealers were giving you a car that was less than what was coming in from abroad.
Yes.
At the moment, when it comes to a lot of the things that are coming brand new in the showroom,
Yes.
looking at the Mazda CX-5, for instance,
Yes.
any of the Range Rovers that we had, any of the Mercedes that you've driven so far, they will have the same specs. They'll have maps that work in Kenya. They'll have a music system. They'll have AC. They'll have 4-zone climate control. They'll have almost all of the latest safety tech. So we have seen cars like, for instance, now the Subaru with that eyesight system.
Yes.
So you're seeing cruise control, for
Yes.
instance, now, and adaptive cruise control in a car that's in Kenya. So like all of the bells and whistles that guys are getting from grey imports are also available from the showroom now, and the prices are starting to get lower and lower every day.
Now, guys, remember the key rivals for the SVR and the GLE 63 MGS Coupe. Long name, Porsche Cayenne Turbo S. We have the BMW X5 and X6M, which we are yet to test, but they've promised they're going to give us. The moment it lands in Kenya, we're going to test this particular car, because there are a few people who have it, but officially now, with the brands, it's coming soon. So stay tuned, because on the next season, we're going to have bigger, even better vehicles running around in our show. And of course, we told you, if you have a unique vehicle that you want us to review, please holler at us on our social media handles below, and we'll obviously try and test it. If you have a Tesla, I've had somebody has a Tesla around, I think in Mombasa, holler, we will review that car. On to our next news item, and we go all the way to Munich in the Bavaria region of southern Germany. And we tested the BMW 330i on Cars with Big Boy Trev. Mr. Murigi, we know the 330, or the 3 Series in general, has been the blueprint of compact executive saloons in Kenya and across the world. What were your thoughts about the 330i?
Well, the thing is, generally, we are looking at globally around the world, there is a reduction in the number of saloons that people are buying.
Yes.
Everybody is switching, obviously, now to a compact SUV. So it was very interesting to drive one of the most exciting compact executive cars that people are still buying at the moment. So somebody who's buying a 3 Series is thinking they're buying a 3 Series instead of buying an X3. So they really had to bring their A game, and we saw that with that 330i. It's a 2-liter engine, so they've changed the naming thing, because back in the day a 330 would be a 3-liter. But that was actually a really good engine.
Yes.
It had a lot of features. We actually saw that the car was parking itself.
Yes.
Comes back to what I was saying earlier, all of the functions, all of the stuff that guys were seeing in cars that are coming from outside, they are coming in showroom cars today.
Yes.
So you don't get steel wheels and hubcaps. You don't get a car that's coming without the tech functionality.
Yes.
We saw that car parking itself in a setting that is very normal to people in Kenya. And that car was really, really very fast. It was fun to drive.
I mean, one of the biggest changes that I've always had with BMW, they've always had hard suspension, mostly because of the sporty driving, and we can't blame them in our roads. However, this 330i with the, it's called the rough road package that is suited for this region, with the higher profile tires and the stiffer, slightly softer suspension, the ride was amazing. Like, I couldn't believe I'm driving a BMW, but still it handled extremely well, especially at Kiambu Ring where we were. And I was pleasantly surprised with the 2-liter turbo. I think it's a high power turbo with that kind of output. However, we haven't tested yet the E-Class, the C-Class, which is coming soon actually, next season. Stay tuned, we're going to test that. As well as anything else within the market. I think we do also have one of the brands, I don't know which one, but I'll remember, the Jaguar XE. Yes. Now the XE as well is an amazing vehicle. Also, it's been designed to match the 3 Series because the 3 Series is like the template of everybody else. And of course, having the Jaguar Dynamics, the name, the look, the style, we also can't wait to test that car on Cars with Big Boy Trev. Mr. Murigi, tell us about the level of sophistication and quality of the 330i in this market. I mean, that those discerning people who love BMW 3 Series, is it a car that they would actually jump to?
Definitely. What I was saying now is that they've paid attention to detail. And that's generally across the board now for Mercedes and BMW, of course, down the big German guys, is knowing that they're paying attention to detail. So even like with the C-Class or now with the 3 Series, it's the small things that count. Those are small things, like when you sit inside, the thing adjusts itself to you. Those are the tiny things that you're paying a premium for when you have a Mercedes or a BMW. And we saw that those features are still available in a car that you can buy in the showroom right now. So it's not something that you need to dream about maybe one day having. So for instance, there's a phrase that I'm hearing a lot of time. With some of these cars, it's not about owning them one day, it's about owning them on day one. So just walk into these showrooms nowadays, the stuff is helpful, the pricing is fantastic, there's a lot of financing that's available, so there's no reason why you shouldn't just walk into the showroom, talk to somebody and see what you can get.
So guys, this is a very familiar territory. What am I talking about? We've been testing the Volkswagen Amarok, but Volkswagen has actually improved every single year, trying to give this Volkswagen Amarok the offering, the quality that the customer so desires. Remember, this particular category, there are so many players, including the Ford Ranger, the Toyota Hilux, the Mitsubishi L200, the Triton, and many others. Even Chinese and Indian are actually coming up and trying to take this crown away from the Volkswagen. So let's start with this particular design. It's a typical traditional Volkswagen design. Butch looks, remember the design was supposed to give it presence, so obviously plenty of sharp creases on the dashboard and as well as the exterior. As you move towards the center console, you do have a design that's very similar to the previous generation of the Touareg, and you do have an amazing, this looks like a 7.5 or 8.5 inch multi-information display. Right below it, you do have the climate control system. It's called Climatronic in Volkswagen terms, and it's not a dual zone one, but it works effectively. Cooling the cabin or heating the cabin are so required. The gearbox console, you do have plenty of cubbyholes and spaces. As you can see, there's actually a place where you can actually place your mobile phone. And on the gearbox console itself, you do have a Tiptronic setup, and of course you do have the off-road dynamic system, so stability control, you can lock diff, and of course hill descent control, which comes as standard in this particular car. You do have cubbyholes and spaces as well. You do have space for 2 large bottles, and of course your sanitizer, which is very important as well. Traditional handbrake, which you can use it to park and do some stunts over there. And obviously you do have a center binnacle where you can actually store your sunglasses and many other things. Now moving over to the instrument binnacle, as you know how I said, Volkswagen have nailed it. They know how to make a proper instrument binnacle that is clear and precise. You can actually see all the italics, all the vital information. On the left hand side, do have the tachometer on the right hand side, the speedometer, and in between the two dials you do have the temperature gauge and of course the fuel gauge. In between you do have a monochrome display that gives you also the important details about the car, including mileage, range, and obviously the 4x4 capabilities of this 4-motion gearbox that's available on the Amarok. The steering as well is traditional Volkswagen, and I like the fact that they introduced the piano black finish on the 3-spoke steering wheel as well, and it's leather clad and stitched. And obviously you do have your stocks, indicator stocks, wiper, and then cruise control, which comes as standard on this particular vehicle. Sitting comfortable, Big Boy is very comfortable. I think they made the Amarok because of Big Boy Trev, because it has the largest and widest cabin in the business, so you are able to relax comfortably. It feels like you're driving a 4x4, like a Touareg. And obviously do have plenty of space. Lumbar support is good, headroom is good even if you are tall enough, and of course you can adjust the steering wheel, tilt and telescopic, so to fit your taste and preference of any driver driving the Amarok. But you want to find out, is this car comfortable at the back? What's the infotainment all about? We're gonna join Mr. Murigi, our resident tech guru and space expert, to give us a much more detailed analysis about this particular infotainment system, and of course the back seat and the loading bay, courtesy of Cars with Big Boy Trev.
So inside here now, of course, now this being a lifestyle double cab pickup, it has a lot of features that are usually found in saloon cars or compact SUVs. And one of them that's very, very interesting is what a Volkswagen calls voice assist. So it actually uses the microphone for the Bluetooth system inside here to play back my voice in the rear speaker, so that if you're driving on a long trip, you have people at the back, you have kids, or you're speaking normally, your voice is picked up and then amplified in the speakers, so that you don't have to turn to talk to the people behind you. Of course, over here now we have a music system that actually also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So you're actually able to mirror your screen simply by just connecting your phone over here, and you can have maps, you can see your messages, you can catch up with WhatsApp, and you can actually plan your route in advance, which is something that you don't see in a lot of double cab pickups in this market. This, of course, is that spectacular 8-speed ZF gearbox that also has quite a lot of technology. This, unlike most of the other pickups in the market, doesn't have a low-range gear, but what the 8-speed gearbox here from ZF actually allows it to have a very strong fast gear. So most of the time, you don't actually start in gear 1. There's a low gear that allows you to do some off-roading in this vehicle. So the cabin of this actually feels like what I'd say. It feels like a Golf. It's actually very nice to sit in, loads of space. So let's check out the back to see just how much space this has for rear passengers. So coming round to the back of this double cab, and there's actually quite a lot of space in the back here. This is set for the first time in my driving position, and I'm 5'9" and there's a lot of space for both my knees, my legs, and under here for my feet, because the bottom over here is actually pretty flat. This Amarok is actually wider than most pickups, and I'm going to go into why when we go check out the bucket. So it means that 3 adults can sit very comfortably across. At the back here, there's a lot of small places to put stuff. So at the back, the door pockets are actually pretty big, and there's a very interesting cup holder situation going on down here, which I find very interesting. There's a 12-volt socket at the back here if you need to charge any devices. And because this is a lifestyle pickup that's probably going to be used by families during the week, and maybe now to go check out the Shamba in the evening, there are actually ISOFIX points for child seats in both of the outboard seats. Again, being a dual cab, it has one of these very interesting things of being able to lift the seat so that you can have additional space. But unlike other pickups, you don't actually have space under here. So let's check out the back to see just how much this pickup can carry. Coming round to the back of this double cab, and this is where the business happens. So this is party in the front, business in the back. One of the things I like about this is that this door is very easy to open because it is screen assisted. So it's easy to open, easy to close. You don't need a lot of functionality or power to be able to do that. So in here you have what is the widest bucket in class. You can actually fit an entire pallet inside here. The width in between these two tire bolsters actually means that there's a lot of space that you can put inside here. Total capacity here is 1,100 kgs, so almost a ton that you can put in the back here, and it's very usable. So Digidobi obviously does this treatment at the back. There are 4 tie-down points, and there's actually a 12-volt socket if you need to put any accessories in the back here. So let's take this on the road and see what the Amarok has to offer.
So guys, it's a beautiful day today on Cars with Big Boy Trev. We are driving the Amarok, the 2019 version. This is the last derivative before the model change that will happen next year, and it's going to be interesting because Ford and Volkswagen have partnered to create a chassis that will become unbeatable in the business. So let's start basics. Up front, you do have a 2-liter bi-turbo diesel that produces 132 kilowatts and 400 Newton meters of torque, that if you decide to put it in sport like now, and it pulls because you have 400 Newton meters going straight on to the 4 wheels, courtesy of an 8-speed ZF gearbox and of course 4Motion technology that Volkswagen employs on the Touareg, on the Tiguan, and all the 4x4s that Volkswagen has. So it's a combined effort. You have a very smooth, very frugal engine that has a lot of power and torque. You have a very fast gearbox, ZF, and very smooth as well, with 8 ratios that allows this car to also have good fuel consumption. And of course 4Motion that Mirigi will test when he goes on the off-road segment. Volkswagen have done a lot to ensure that this particular car is very comfortable to drive with. Remember, it's a cruiser. Double cabs are for both work and play. So if you're going to your shamba and then you decide, okay, I need to hit the road and just have a gentle cruise, then this particular car will make sure that you enjoy your ride. Noise, vibration and harshness is very good. It's actually similar to what you'd probably find in a Touareg. And this is because Volkswagen have employed a lot of sound deadening material on the firewall, on the transmission tunnel, just to make sure that you remain quiet. Safety, critical and key. This particular car has a raft of active and passive safety features, including anti-lock braking system. You do have ABS for 4-wheel drive, which actually works better because when you're driving in sand, you need less slipping, so it allows you to do that. And of course, if all hell breaks loose, you can rely on stability control, which is standard ESP, and of course the multiple airbags strewn across this cabin, and of course a 5-star passenger safety rating that this cabin provides. And before we go even further, remember this particular car also has different aspects of suspension. You do have double wishbones at the front, and you have long stroke lift suspension for added comfort and rigidity, and obviously you're able to drive this car very comfortably during long distances on and off-road. So let's join Mr. Mirigi as he takes us through the off-road section, courtesy of this particular Amarok, courtesy of Cars with Big Boy Trev.
So Trev has already taken you through what this thing can do when it's on tarmac, but I'm going to take this car off the road. Now, one thing that is usually said about the Amarok is that unlike most other double cab pickups in this segment, it doesn't have a transfer case, it doesn't have a low range gear, which is a very important thing when you're off-road. But it does have locking diffs, and it has an off-road mode for this gearbox itself. So this is that excellent 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox. First thing to notice is the fact that this, being a double cab, has a very stiff rear suspension. This has springs at the back, which is very different from the Navara. The Nissan Navara, of course, has coils. This has the traditional leaf spring setup at the back. And usually what this means is that when the car is empty, like it is today, you usually get bumped around a lot. But so far, it's not too bad. It's shaking a bit, but not as much as I would expect. I get thrown a lot more in other cars, like Hilux has a very strong suspension at the back there. So right now I'll be bouncing a lot. This is not obviously a bad thing because that suspension is built to make sure that you're able to do this when you have load at the back. So first thing I'm going to do, because now the track is getting a bit interesting, is I'm going to switch it into off-road mode. So there's just a button that you press down here, and you're basically telling the gearbox that we're in off-road mode. And what that does is that it allows the car to have access to that lowest gear ratio. So it's not low range as such, but what we're doing right now is basically effectively a crawl mode where the car is pulling itself. So I don't have my feet on the accelerator, and the car is just basically pulling itself going forward. And one of the advantages of putting it in the off-road mode, it also changes the responsiveness of the accelerator, so it's able to give you as much power as you need, because you know when you're off-roading, you're going as fast as necessary, slow as possible. So it's handling itself very well off the road. Trevor showed you it's handling itself very well on the road. So let's go to value for money.
So guys, we've actually tested this particular iteration of the Volkswagen Amarok, and I can tell you Volkswagen has done enough to enhance this product. Now it rivals the big boys, Hilux, Ranger, D-Max. Mr. Mrigi, who are the key rivals of this particular truck?
This is a very interesting segment because for the Kenyan market, unlike the international market, for us, double cab is king. So this has very many competitors in this market. Primarily, obviously, is the Ford Ranger Wild Track. Then we have to talk about the Isuzu D-Max, the Hilux, and actually going so far as to talk about the Mazda BT50 and the Mahindra Scorpio as well.
Kabisa.
Yes.
Half the price, same value. Mr. Mirigi, details. How much is this car?
Well, we're looking at 7.2 million shillings for this car,
yes,
and that comes with a 3-year or 100,000 warranty, whichever comes first.
And obviously, talking about the future, the next generation is coming next year, and you know there's a marriage or partnership between Ford and Volkswagen to build the next pickup truck. So they're going to share platforms. The Amarok and the Ranger will be both on the same platform, so you can imagine the hardy chassis of the Amarok and of course Ranger, and of course the engines that are very powerful. That marriage will be made in heaven, and we can't wait to sample it. Well, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on Cars with Big Boy Trev. It's been an honor and a pleasure hosting this season. If you have any questions, comments, or queries, don't hesitate to write to us. I've seen on the social media handles below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Mr. Mirigi, for those who want to catch up with the rest of the season, what do they need to do?
Well, we're on YouTube now, so all our episodes from Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and additional content that we post whenever we happen to be out is all available on YouTube, so we can keep you company during this quarantine.
That's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on Cars with Big Boy Trev. It's been an honor and pleasure hosting you on this show, on this season. Thank you so much to our suppliers and partners from DTW, CMC, Toyota Kenya, Nissan Kenya, and everybody else who's been part and parcel of this amazing program. Well, that's it. Drive safe.
Be safe.